Hello, beloved.
Welcome to the Sacred Sister podcast,
where we normalize the magic
and sacralize the mundane.
In this podcast, we open up dialogue on metaphysical subjects, self-healing tools, expanding consciousness, and deepening awareness.
To support you in co-creating a life full of healing, meaning, and magic.
I'm Britt, a self-study entrepreneur, spiritual wellness coach, and self-healing song channeler.
And I'm Hannah, an astral researcher, priestess, and inner peace and transformation coach.
And together,
we're here to serve as your Sacred Sister.
Let's dive in.
Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Sacred Sister Podcast. My name is Britt, and today we're going to be diving deeply into conversation about a self-knowledge system called human design with Wynd. So, Wynd. How did I come about Wynd? In the second season, I've really loved letting all of you know how I come to know the guests that we have on our show that I invite on. Hannah introduces the people that she invites on. So, Wynd, I actually found out about through Instagram. She had been commenting on some of my stuff, and I had just been energetically reaching out for a human design expert and someone that I can talk about human design more with. And then when this season started, we said, we have to talk about human design. I think I have the perfect person. And then I found out that Wynd knew Ash and Matt, and Ash, you were introduced to where we talked about the blood book with Ash and Liana. That was a couple episodes ago. And you may know Ash from At the Yoga Couple on Instagram. Her and her husband, Matt, are incredible thought leaders and just really amazing teachers of yogic philosophy and spirituality and growth as a conscious couple. So I have Ash to thank for yet another guest on this show and another introduction that's been made. And I'm so grateful to know Wynd now. We are so excited to have her on as our human design guide today. And more so than a foundational sort of lesson or workshop type of episode, we're just going to be opening deeper dialogue. So before we hop into the episode, I would really love to give you some basics on the self-knowledge system. And if you would like to grab your chart, you can actually do it on Wynd's website. So the website is Winds of Change, WYNDS. Notice that it's not Winds with an I, it's Winds with a Y, WYNDS of change.com. And you can get your basic chart or go a little more in depth, and both options are free. So when some of you think of self-knowledge systems, you may think of things like the Chakra System or Astrology, or maybe the term is completely new to you. So basically what I mean by self-knowledge system is a body of work or a map system where your unique information, usually not your name, but your birth date, your birth location, and your birth time. So your specific coordinates and your specific information opens up a map. So for astrology, for instance, you can type in your birth location, date, and time, and you see a map of where the planets are. And then you see all the aspects that the planets are making with one another. And then you can start to get curious and say, what are the houses about? What are the planet personalities? What are the zodiac personalities? And then you can start to work all of this out, and you see an entire story that totally reflects who you know yourself to be as a person. It is absolutely incredible. I know my life completely changed when I started getting into astrology. I learned about human design about 1.5 years ago from my great girlfriend, Jill. She's the founder of Goddess Provisions, and she told me about this system. She said, "Have you heard of human design?" I said, "No." And she said, "Well, I'm curious to know the things that we have in common with each other, like why we're drawn to one another." And I was like, wow, what is this about? So I look up human design, and I have been obsessed. I've been trying to learn more about it for about 1.5 years. And without further ado, let me just tell you what some of the basics are about this system. So what makes human design really unique is that it's basically a self-knowledge system in regards to making decisions. If you feel like you don't know yourself very well, or you wonder why you make the same types of decisions over and over and over, whether it's in your life or in relationships, this is a really great system to have under your belt, a great wisdom to start to intake. So one of the unique aspects of human design is that it synthesizes components of several different ancient traditions and modern scientific disciplines. So what some of these ancient traditions are the I Ching of Taoism, the Tree of Life of the Kabbalah, the Chakra System of Hinduism, and various systems of astrology on the one hand. So those are the ancient traditions. And then on the modern scientific discipline side, you've got astronomy, physics, and molecular biology. It's a complex system. There are 64 gates, 34 channels. If you see one of these maps, you would probably look at it like me for the first time and be like, what the hey is this? So basically what the chart is able to depict for you is what type you are. So there are I think 4 or 5 different types. And then you've got your strategy, the way that you like to approach life. You've got your not self themes. So when you know that you're feeling off, these are the ways that are, that we react to things. So for me, for instance, my strategy is to respond. My not self theme is to get frustrated. My signature self, so who I am whenever I am feeling really in flow, is satisfaction. And my authority is from my solar plexus, so my emotions, I'm emotionally driven, and I'm profile 1-3, which is the investigator type and the martyr type. So then you've got an incarnation cross. We'll discuss this later in the episode, but your cross to bear. I love how Wynd uses that association, and it is just such a fascinating system. This is opening up self-knowledge systems is such a brilliant aspect to bring into those who are on a conscious path of spiritual awakening and who are looking to bring greater change and transformation into a life path that says, I am a co-creator of my reality. I wish to experience transformation in my life. I wish to experience growth. I wish to know myself more fully. So now I would love to head over to Hannah, who's going to give us an astrology chart reading of Wynd so that you can see some of the energetic DNA that has led her on the path that she is on now. And then we'll head into a tiny meditation and we'll get right into the episode. I hope you really enjoy. Please make sure to leave us some notes. Leaving us comments and ratings really increases our searchability so that we may grow as Sacred Sisters and become Sacred Sisters for more and more and more people like yourself. Thanks so much for inviting us into your home, into your car, into whatever device that it is that you're playing us on right now. It's a real treat, and we are so grateful to know you through this platform. Thank you so much, and let's head in.
Thank you, Brittany, for telling us the story. Before we go into this exciting interview about human design, we want to look at the astrological design of Wynd. So let's see and look into her natal chart to kind of have an understanding of what kind of archetypes are inside of her and how they are playing out in her life. So she is a sun in Aries in the 8th house, conjunct Mars and conjunct Venus, all of them in Aries and all of them in the 8th house. She is a powerhouse. We have with Aries the archetype of the warrior. Also with Mars is also the warrior. Aries is ruled by Mars. And with Venus, we have the archetype of the lover. All 3 of them, together with the sun, find themselves in the 8th house, which is the house of deep soul research, transformation, magic, mysteries, occult, secrets, taboos, astrology, ancient self-knowledge systems. All of these things are part of the 8th house. So just looking at it from this perspective, a part of what Wynd's life path is about is to really be the warrior and the lover at the same time, combine the masculine and feminine energies, and pioneer and trailblaze into the darkness, into the hidden realms, into the subtleness of the underlying energies, the things that we cannot see, the things that are not being spoken about, which are often, these ancient, energetic, non-physical ways of looking at life, and allowing herself to be the warrior in that. And she has been doing that very beautifully with human design. And you're gonna, see in the interview how she got so inspired by it, which is literally the Aries, that is a fire sign, and fire is spirit. And so inspired by something, inspiration comes from having spirit come through you, or a spark going on within you, in whatever way you want to look at it. And she has been really inspired by human design, and she dived into it confidently, courageously, and quickly too, and really wanted to know everything about it and wanted to become the expert of it. And this is where her moon plays the part. Her moon is in Capricorn in the 5th house, and we have Capricorn being the boss, right? The expert, the one that has authority in this field. And then the 5th house is the house of creative self-expression, the way that we shine our light, that which makes us special. And both of those, we have a T-square, which is a cardinal T-square in her chart that is very dominant. That was like the first thing that I saw when I looked at her chart. I'm like, oh wow, that's a big T-square right there. And T-squares are like little power engines for us. They bring up obstacles and challenges, but they also catapult us into like the most amazing fields, the most amazing ways of living. Because we have those challenges, they actually make us stronger. So for her, the challenge is really to integrate her passion and inspiration of the mystery and become an authority in the way that she expresses herself. And also then it goes towards Jupiter and Saturn in Libra in her 2nd house, and ultimately making that her field of income and her main source for financial abundance. So I know that she's shifting in this direction right now, and it's really beautiful because it is so aligned to her chart. She's also a Leo rising, and Leo rising love to, well, they are enthusiastic, right? Leo is the sun. They love to shine. They love to let people know how they feel. And Leo is just so excited, so super excited about things. And you're gonna notice her excitement within this episode. It's beautiful. And her chart ruler is the sun. So for her, it's really about allowing herself to step into the light, into the spotlight, and feel special in who she is. And then with her North Node being in the 12th house, it's all about diving into the mysteries of life and connecting with her psychic abilities and connecting with her intuition and connecting with the ways that she surrenders to the flow. And ultimately, always going back to her warrior, lover, transformer type that she is, and allowing to bring the feminine and masculine together in unity. And being of service to others through her creations and through her unique way of looking at these mysteries of life. And now before we move into the interview, let's take a moment to calm our mind and dive into a little meditation. Let's take a deep breath in together through the nose and sigh it out through the mouth. Let's take another deep breath in and sigh it out. Let out the day. Let out any stresses or tensions. Anything that doesn't serve you in this moment. Let's take another deep breath in. And with your breath out, allow yourself to sink deeper into this moment. Today is the first day of the year, the first day of the decade, the beginning of a new journey in your life, a new chapter of the book of life. What is your intention for this year, 2020? We are moving into a collective 4-year, the year of the Emperor, which helps us as a collective to step into leadership and embrace our abilities and talents and gifts. In what area in your life are you asked to step into leadership now? What kind of gifts are within you that are yearning to be expressed? It is your choice on how you will be moving through this year. How much of the old decades do you want to bring with you? And allow yourself to take on more of what resonates with you, with your true self, that helps you stay grounded and be present in the moment while you're enjoying the journey. There's only one of you, and you are unique in who you are. And the deeper you know about yourself, the more blessings are coming into your life. Let's take a deep breath in for the nose again, and out for the mouth. Slowly coming back into this realm. Hope you enjoyed this little guided meditation. And now let's dive into a system that helps us to deeply know who we are and embrace our gifts and talents and know that we are special, so that we may all step into leadership in this beautiful new year, 2020. Enjoy.
Oh, sacred sister, a kindred flame, may we light one another. From the ashes rise, oh, we rise, oh, again.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sacred Sister Podcast. We are so excited and Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. This is our very first episode of the year, first episode of the decade, first episode of the Collective Consciousness Year 4. Wow. We are so excited to open up deeper dialogue today on another big, beautiful self-knowledge system. And we have with us here today, Miss Wynd. Hello, Wynd.
Aloha.
Aloha. So
Yeah.
we are just, oh my gosh, so curious. I know for myself, I started studying human design about 1.5 years ago, and our co-host Hannah knows next to nothing, not too much about the system. So we're really excited to not only invite in some foundations of the system, but also we have some deeper questions on people that maybe have been studying with the system for some time. And we hope that wherever you are on the spectrum of knowledge within the system, that you are able to glean some wisdom and take something really beautiful away from this episode.
Definitely. And thank you so much for having me on your show. It's such an honor to be here. I am so excited about sharing this information with people. It's been life-changing, transforming, getting in alignment with your charts. If everyone could just get these like little tidbits of information about how they operate, it's life-changing. It's life-changing knowledge and awarenesses, because you wonder, I wish I came with a blueprint. What do I do? Or a user's manual for how to operate in life and what works best for me. And this is actually literally it. Like, this is the user's manual. So thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
I love that. I'm so excited to be talking more about this with you, Wynd. And you've been saying that it is life-changing for you. So I got to ask you, how did you become interested in human design, and what's your story?
Well, I was introduced to human design through the yoga couple, Matt and Ash. We're actually friends in real life, and they were introduced to it through an Instagram following, and they showed me it, and it has snowballed since then. And as a projector, meaning I'm here to guide others, it's clarified a lot of things for me about how I operate in my own life. A lot of things I naturally intuited in the process, but since I became aware of this knowledge and started diving really, really deep into everything about it, it's changed my perspective of myself and what I'm actually here to do and what my purpose is and how to be more fulfilled in my purpose. And the more that I dive into my chart, the more that me talking and teaching about human design is so in alignment with what I'm actually literally here to do, that I have changed my perspective of what I was doing and have been doing to now doing this. And it's even going to be more full-time, because I can't stop learning about this and applying it to my life and everyone else's lives if they invite me to do so. So it's fun.
So fun. And while you were talking, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of like my story with astrology too. Like that's that's like the exact same way that I feel. And it's like with human design is like a combination of astrology and the chakra system and the I Ching, and then the Kabbalah and the quantum physics, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit more about how did that all come together and how was it created?
And like, what is human design?
Okay. It's quite a unique story. So in 1987, Alan Krakauer, who's a Canadian, was living in Ibiza, Spain, and he had this really unique mystical experience where for 8 days and nights he was downloaded with this voice penetrating his entire system, and all he did was write down all this information and basically the mechanics, and drew out these diagrams and modules and wrote what the voice essentially told him to do. He said that the experience was quite jarring, and he even said it was painful because it just overtook him essentially. And it brought about this awareness. It happened in January of 1987. And in February of 1987, there was a supernova that was able to be seen from Chile. It was a supernova, I think early February or something around there, 1987. So that was the actual physical neutrino blast that was penetrating our whole galaxy. So this experience happened in January, and then we actually got to see the actual supernova of the like correlation, and light travels slower. So this had already been happening. The neutrinos, this whole energy wave was affecting our whole galaxy. 1987, there was the harmonic convergence. And then it's just kind of snowballed from there. And then 1991 was when the internet became online, or it started becoming a little bit more mainstream. The early 90s was the internet making that more accessible. You know, America Online came on. I relate human design to the software that is running behind the scenes on this hardware matrix landscape that we all collectively live in as souls, embodying these avatars and these avatars that we are able to interact within each other with. And human design is the software. It's the program that is running behind the scenes, and it's just like a computer system.
Yeah.
So that's the history of it. And now it's the first books were written in 1991, 1995, and then it basically has snowballed since then. And there's a whole lot of information and people putting together the pieces of what this original information that was downloaded, what it actually means and how it applies to our lives.
That is so fascinating. So was he studying astrology and, you know, the different metaphysical things beforehand, or that was just completely downloaded everything?
No, he was a normal, average guy that was in marketing and advertising. And he did have a bit of a burnout moment. And that's why he quit everything and went to Ibiza. So I think he was soul searching. I think he was trying to figure out his life. And then this happened, being at the right place at the right time. And his design helped him do this and get this information out there. Oh, yes. And after this experience, he was named, or the name that the voice gave him was Ra Uru Hu. So, and then he lived by that name after that 8-day and night experience. And he was a ego-defined splenic manifester that had the cross of the clarion, meaning he was here to be the messenger of this new way of thinking and this new thought form and applying it to life. So
a really clear depiction of manifest destiny.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So I wanted to touch on this really quick. I got this book for Christmas from my husband last year, Human Design, The Science of Differentiation. And I just really wanted to read a few little tiny passages on the neutrinos. And for a lot of people that have a hard time lending their beliefs to the fact that planets can influence us in any way, I think that this passage on the neutrinos and the way that they interact with everything and what they are is a really, really important key part of it, so that it's not just like, oh yeah, energy. So for me, at least, this was a really big turning point, and I wrote all kinds of arrows whenever I first read this and stuff. So it's just like a paragraph, and then there's another little paragraph. So it says, during Ra's experience, he learned that neutrinos were capable of leaving an imprint, which meant that neutrinos were particles carrying mass. This had not been proven by science yet. At first, scientists thought that subatomic particles, or neutrinos, streaming through space were pure energy like the photon. But since they travel 1 to 2% slower than the speed of light, they could not be pure energy. This first prediction was scientifically proven 11 years later. By 1998, scientists had proven that the largest of these unusual and barely detectable particles bear an infinitesimal amount of mass, about 1/1,000,000th of the weight of one proton. So small. Having mass allows neutrinos to carry information, yet they are small enough to pass through any atomic barrier without resistance. So these tiny cosmic messengers are referred to as the breath of stars, the exhaled energy of stellar fusion, and there are more of them than anything else in the universe. 3 trillion neutrinos and the material of information they carry pass through every square inch of our planet and us every single second. Our sun, which is the closest star to the Earth, produces about 70% of all neutrinos that travel through our solar system, and the remaining 30% are emitted by other stars in our Milky Way galaxy, and a small percentage are from the planet Jupiter. So that's the first little bit, and what a good bit of context that provides. So then the way that the neutrinos coincide with the planets and deliver the messages down to us and interact with our energy is depicted here. So we are surrounded by an enormous star field, which generates the neutrino stream that is constantly penetrating and informing the objects it passes through. A kind of communication occurs during the encounter when the neutrino's infinitesimal mass interacts or rubs against the object on its way through. For example, when the neutrino stream goes through Mars, it communicates with Mars and an exchange takes place. After being filtered by Mars, the stream passes through humans and there is another exchange. It's as if a black car and a white car bang into each other, and now there's a little black paint on the white car and a little white paint on the black car. Each car is altered by the encounter, just as we are altered by this neutrino interaction.
Exactly.
So
it is scientifically proven. Yeah. I even Googled neutrino and there's actually a definition. So science does prove it. And so 11 years prior, he was given this information, and then science, the secretary, documents and really validates that this information does have an effect on this material plane.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is such a beautiful, first step entry point into really being able to hold and embody and experience and feel the feminine, because there's this element of divine trust that must be had in order to lend oneself the ability to perceive a self-knowledge system that has nearly no grounds, but it's completely, it's so complex, and the whole thing is downloaded.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing.
Thank you for saying this, Britt, because this is, I feel so important, especially right now in the age of Aquarius, that we have that scientific background onto all the other metaphysical experiences that we have, because we're coming from Age of Pisces, and Age of Pisces is the more romanticize the angels and being able to imagining all these different things. But we've also got burned during that time through religion and through people that gave us a lot of illusions. And so going into Age of Aquarius now is the time for us to look into what does science do and how can we connect these mystical experiences with the scientific part. Mm-hmm. And so I love that, because I feel that's also explains astrology to a deeper level as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge one that I came across, and I was just oh my gosh, there are these like chink, 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 these locks that feel like they're locking into place. And it feels like the capacity of my being has always known that some kind of greater potential is out there. And I feel like these are the secrets that it's so magical to come upon. And how would you say, Wynd, well, I know that this system seems to be a little newer in
Yes.
the last few years, but it seems like it really has expanded so much just in the last like 2.5 years with the internet and the way information is getting spread.
What was the question?
Just like, wouldn't you say that human design is having such a massive boom in just the last 2.5 years?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yes. So, and I think it's because I have a couple theories on that, but I'm going to stick to other people really delving into, and honestly, Jenna Zoe taking this information and really getting it out there. She's been a powerhouse of being a really good example of intuiting the human design system and then having the marketing capability to network that out and really share it. It's also been past the 7-year anniversary since Ra Uruhu's death in March of 2011. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I feel like, because like every 7 years there's a new cycle. Like we always like the cells, there seems to be this like 7-year cycle. And even though he's been deceased for, it'll be 8 years, 2000, it'll be 9 years coming this coming up March. But I think there had to be something that had to do with, because he has, he's on the other side and his knowledge hasn't been really, it's in a small group of people and it hasn't really gotten out into the mainstream yet. And there's just been this new wave because it's getting to be that time. We're coming into 2020, 2027 of another shift is massively coming and it needs to be known. Like this information needs to get out to people. So that's my theory on that one.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Jenna Zoe was is it Zoe?
I think it's Jenna Zoe, but okay. I'm not entirely sure. So I think it's Jenna Zoe. It's that little.
Somebody reach out to Jenna and let us know. Or Jenna,
yeah,
holler at your girls. So, yeah, she was the first person that I listened to. I think it was a Your Own Magic podcast, and she was the first person that I really heard sort of talk on it. And my girlfriend Jill turned me on to this system in the first place. She was like, I feel like, you and I have so many different things that are connecting us. And she had asked me if I had heard about human design, and I said no. And we looked up our charts, and that was the first time. I think that was like the first thing she really told me about the system at all, was about the compatibility sort of aspect of being able to look at the charts. And we looked at what it was that was connecting us, and we were just like, oh my gosh, this is wild. I was totally blown away because it's different than astrology.
It is. It's different. It is different.
One in the same, but it's like more. It's like a deeper facet.
Exactly. That's a really good way of describing it. And there's actual, real, tangible personality themes, because the I Ching, how the I Ching overlays the astrology wheel is, and they've actually been noticing that there's 64 I Ching themes. So there's 64 life themes. It's almost like the tarot, but a little bit more complex. It's very similar. It's an old ancient divination system. And in the human body, we have 64 gene codons. So you've heard of the gene keys. That came out. Actually, I was actually more aware of that several years ago, maybe like 6 or 7 years ago. But I couldn't really put the two together. And I didn't know about human design, but the guy that wrote the Gene Keys, Richard Rudd, had actually studied with Ra in the very beginning. I even heard him being quoted. He said himself that he invested his entire inheritance into learning and studying with Ra, and in order to write the Gene Keys. And so if you want to know more and a different perspective within human design, you can just read the Gene Keys book, because that will show you take your chart, and then that actually goes into more in depth about the Gene Keys and your and that's how Richard went to the more feminine aspects, the more abstract aspects, more in depth, and what he'd noticed from applying this with other people. And then human design, the human design system, the map is like the left brain, the logical, the nuts and bolts, the this and the that, the very systematic, mechanical explanation. So
yeah, and I'm curious if you can also, now that we are a bit into this, if you can give a synopsis of the system and what it holds within it for anyone who may be stumbling upon this episode and has no idea, has never heard about human design.
And how the chart looks like. I feel like that's really an interesting question for me too. Like, because for people that know astrology, they know it's like a chart, like a round circle thing, and look at it. But the human design looks very much different. So if you can maybe talk a little bit more about that, like what can be seen in that human design chart.
There's actually two aspects to the chart. There's a wheel that matches the astrology wheel. There's an astrology wheel that goes around. And on top of that is the I Ching, the 64 gates, is a second layer around the circle. And that actually, you can take that's how you can take your astrology chart and match it up within the planets, the planetary alignment, and then that number matches, or wherever the alignment is, then there's a specific gate that gets activated. And then the second part is actually a body graph of 9 centers, which is very similar to what the Hindu chakra system looks like, a straight line up and down. However, the only difference is that there are 2 centers on either side of the root and sacral chakra. So there are 2 centers. So it makes a little bit of a diamond or a triangle. And then what connects these centers are the channels and your gates, if they are on either side. If a planetary activation matches 2 gates and they meet each other, that completes a whole channel. And so that's what makes your definition. If you have 2 gates and they match equally and they complete a whole channel, that makes you having defined centers, then that's what makes your definition, or that's your most consistent energy within your chart.
So am I understanding this right? I love hearing this, because this is my first episode from Sacred Sister Podcast where I have really very little knowledge of what we're talking about. So I'm super excited to be just a student here today. And so I'm going to be asking a few questions about that.
Sure, great.
So am I understanding this right? Is it that it basically goes from each of these similar chakra centers, these channels, is that like energy that connects them, and like knowledge goes through that, and they are connected in that way? And if it's like not all the way connected, it just stops and it doesn't get transferred?
It's not that you don't have, if it's a gate activation, it's defined by the planets. You have that theme as your gene codon DNA activation. You have that theme and it's consistent. If you don't have the other side, you may find yourself trying to find other people with that other side of that other gate activation, which is where, like, for example, you and Britt will match each other and that completes certain channels, and that's how you find harmony or synchronicity, energies matching, because you guys complete each other and you make whole circuits within each other, and that's where human chemistry comes into play. So if you have a whole channel, or whether you have a gate defined by your planets, that is your most consistent energy. Anything that is undefined or a non-activated gate in your chart, we will be able to, you or I or anyone else can sample the energy that's activated by the planets, because as they move through time, like these certain themes will start to play out. And so we'll get like little samples and tastes and tidbits that will color the theme due to people that you're around, and from planetary activations as we move through the wheel cycle. So like in astrology, we move through each zodiac sign. So we use the astrology wheel, and on top of the astrology wheel is the I Ching gates that were put in a specific alignment that the voice had downloaded to Ra. And this chart then activates the gates. And does that answer the question? I got the whole
Totally.
thing.
Yeah. I think that would have been my extra question, if the transits play a part in it too. So if we have undefined centers and we're moving through time, they are being also activated.
Yes.
In astrology with the transits. That's awesome.
Yes.
So what about with astrology? Like, you have a progress chart. So throughout the time, for example, I'm going to be more of a Libra starting next year, because my progress sun is going to be, instead of a Leo Virgo, moving into Libra. Is that something that human design does too? Is it like slowly shifting throughout your years?
Yes, it does. Saturn returns, even solar returns, like your birth year. Uranus oppositions can be discovered and identified. Also, you can take and progress your chart into the future and see how the transits will affect you during that specific day.
Awesome.
I actually have a story that's pretty fascinating about that. So I was doing a reading for a woman, and her husband, it was a Uranus opposition reading, and her husband,
Sorry, can you just give us a little brief insight on what a Uranus opposition reading is?
Yes. So Uranus opposition is when you transition, you're about 40 to 43-ish, 45 maybe, depends. You transition from your south node into your north node of the moon. And it's so the south node is all about where you've been, your soul, what you have, your past life, all the lessons that you've been brought into this life. And when you reach the halfway point between your whole life, let's say you live to 80, that's like the basic premise. When Uranus goes halfway, then you switch into a whole new mode of being. You switch, and sometimes it can be quite drastic from where you've been. It depends. There's a lot of intricacies that can be different. So right around 40 to 43, you hear about the midlife crisis. And to some people, it can really be that way. Like if you're without awareness, you wonder what's happening, because how you used to operate, and that was so prevalent and paramount to your nature, all of a sudden you start having these internal changes that shift you into a whole new way of being. And you actually start questioning yourself, like, am I going crazy? Like, is this a phase? Like, is this going to stop? Like, or what are we going to do? Like, am I going to move past this, or is this something that I now have to live with? And like this internal churning that is totally shifting in my drive and my motivation, and like, wow, what am I doing? Like, why is this happening to me? It's the same thing. And also Saturn returns will do a similar thing in a different way, but Uranus opposition can be quite dramatic. So, and I gave her a Uranus opposition reading, and because she was having one of those experiences where it was quite drastic, from where she was to now where she's going, and where she's now going to be living in this new, potentially 40 years of her next life phase. And we got to have some actual real life validation, because her husband, who was a couple years older, went through his Uranus opposition 2 years ago in 2017. And so I double checked the date on that, and I ran his chart, looked at a synchronicity. So his exact day was June 20th of 2017. And on that day, the Uranus opposition, the transit that was going on had activated every single G center chakra, or his heart chakra is what I call it. The G center, which is all about love and direction within the human design chart. So all 5 were activated. It was just like this direct penetration. And that was the day, on June 20th, was the day that he had open heart surgery.
Wow.
So she and I were blown away by this really interesting synchronicity to prove, or even just to have some validation of, whoa, because he could have had the open heart surgery at a different day or at a different time. But it just happened on that exact day. And I ran the chart and I looked it up and I pulled it and I photoshopped it for her. And I was like, look at this. This is the exact day that this happened. Wow. She was blown away. So, and I told her, hers isn't coming for like 6 more months. So because hers is so drastic, we're like getting the foundation and be like, yours is coming. So it's not, let's just have some footing and some groundwork. So it's not a total like, throws you off guard and things, completely are like give you a left curveball, and so be aware and planning this for the future, and this is what's coming. So it feels like we were able to change or redirect the course that she was potentially taking and bringing it to a more higher vibration. So with awareness and just having conscious awareness that this is what is happening, that no, she's not going crazy. This is an internal change that is needing to be honored and recognized and navigated with grace and awareness and love and compassion.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that. And I think that is just so important when we realize that life is not random. The things that are happening to us don't just happen out of nowhere. Like we can actually look into the future. And I always like to see it like we're on the ocean, on a boat, or we're standing in the ocean, and we can actually look ahead and see, okay, what waves are coming towards us. And we don't just have to be like blindfolded and being like, oh my God, that was a huge wave. And I'm just like, oh, total shock. But we can actually like look ahead and be like, oh, okay, so this is that kind of wave coming. That's that sort of energy. How that exactly going to manifest is obviously going to, depend on my free will choices, depend on the environment. But at least we have an idea of like, okay, that wave is coming into our life. Yeah, that is like my main thing why I love metaphysical self-healing tools, basically, because that is really like we can not only reflect into the past and be like, why did I incarnate? Why am I even here? What's my purpose? But we can also like look into the future and be like, what is coming into my life? What is ahead? And we can be in the present of like, what's going on right now? Why am I feeling this way?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's through awareness. It's that whole quantum physics element where you can look at a point in time, or you can look at something and change the outcome just through observation alone.
Yes. Yeah, like the double slit experiment.
Yes.
Isn't it? Like it's so mind-blowing. For me, the double slit experiment is like something that I feel like should be like on the main page of regular newspapers that people are aware of. It is just, it's like you have two slits. I'm just going to explain it real quick for the ones who may not be familiar with it. So you have two slits, and it's like a scientific experiment. There are two slits, and then there's like a light being projected onto the wall, and the light, depending on where the camera is, meaning like where the observer is, the light either goes through just one of the slits, or it goes through both of the slits at the same time. So it either acts as particles or as a wave. And it's literally just depending on how we observe it. So this state of observation, of awareness, just as you were saying, literally changes the way that life reacts and life is flowing. And I see, the particle part is more like the masculine way of seeing the differences in us. And then the feminine part is the wave that has everything connected and united. And we have the choice with our awareness that we can choose how is life flowing through us.
Or how do we respond to it?
Exactly.
Yeah, I would love to just add as well. I loved what you said earlier, Wynd, about the transition with grace with your client. I think grace was just so the key word with that transition with grace, and being able to see and have some foresight as to what is coming, and just knowing those sort of energetic archetypes and saying, okay, I have my eyes open and I'm ready to, see what this is going to pan out like in my life. And I mentioned in the last episode where we were speaking with the Reiki healer, Jennifer Cabot, that in November 2017, I had a astrology reading with a woman, and she said one thing that just like blew the whole thing out of the water. That was like a priceless sentence. She said, January 2019 is going to change your entire life. And initially I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have a baby. This is incredible. And as soon as I passed March and April, which is when I would have had to get pregnant in order to have a baby in January, I was like, oh no. So what else is going to happen? Oh my gosh. And, there was a part of me that was like, oh yeah, big change. Changes happen every month for me. Cancer rising, ruled by the moon. My life is changing all the time. And then my mom's diagnoses were getting worse and worse. And we started discussing potential of bone marrow transplants and chemotherapy treatments and all these things. And in October, at the beginning of October, she said, okay, I got my date. I'm going to start the bone marrow transplant at the end of November. And then I looked up and saw the statistics for survival rate at her age were under 50%. And I was like, oh, under 50% of people make it past day 20 or day 30 after bone marrow transplant. So she was getting bone marrow transplant on December 5th. And she made it to January 3rd on day plus 29 after her bone marrow transplant.
Wow.
And my mama passed. And it was this around November, December, there was this unfolding that was happening within me as well that was saying, I don't want to focus too hard on if she passes. Like, there was all these fears about what if I bring, the fear to the table and it's what changes things. But then that's another ego attachment, because souls go through what souls are going to go through. And nothing is going to happen that is not meant for her. And I think just going into it, with this idea that says Saturn return, that's another thing. The Saturn was going direct in January of 2019, or making its full complete return. So that was the big sort of clincher with the way that it tied to my astrology chart. But yeah, just having those eyes open and saying, okay, I'm open to what it is. And, sometimes you can't do anything to change what it is that's going to come. And it doesn't matter how you respond to it, it's still going to happen. But handling it with grace, I really, really love that you said that. And these are the kind of keys that I feel like have made all the difference in my life, because I look around at people who don't have self-knowledge systems or, depth in a spiritual practice or belief in the afterlife even. And, they are hardly able to function. Some people, it's like these things are so traumatic for us. If we're able to take a step back and see these systems that say, here's a little map for you. We're here to embrace challenge as well. It's made the world of difference to me as well. So it's such an honor having you here discussing this system as well today. And I really want to acknowledge you and thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because, 8 years ago-ish now, 8 years ago, I went through some challenges within my Saturn return and even a little bit past that I did not handle things with grace. And it just, God, it's painful. It hurts. It's, you just go through this like, God, I really should have done that differently. And it really makes you give this opportunity for self-reflection and then have self-forgiveness, really be like, wow, I could have done that better. I want to do that better. I want to be a better human being when this happens and I get to face my challenges. And even because when you do handle it poorly, karmically, you have to do it again. Like you have to go through these changes again. And either you pass or you fail. Or, no, not so black and white, but more of like, you maybe didn't quite get it the first time. And then, but it will come back again until you can navigate from a higher vibration, a higher perspective, until you complete that. Once you reach the higher perspective of love, compassion, understanding, then you're done. And that karmic wheel and that cycle is over. And because I haven't had to have that same, once I finally completed that one cycle and I had that final opportunity in about 2014 to rematch that exact theme or that karmic theme that I had been experiencing. It was the third time's a charm. And I navigated with grace and love and compassion and ended up, now it was like, okay, well, that's done. I graduated that little karmic wheel. Let's move on to other things that I can now address. And and everything has been really beautifully aligned. And I live from that place now. Oh, and it's actually been since I started wearing my medicine name of Windstorm. Well, and I go by Wind. You can call me Windstorm or Wind. But it really happened after I started wearing my medicine name of Windstorm. I have a whole story on that I will be sharing soon I'll share that on my YouTube channel. So once that comes out, maybe a little after this podcast airs, I'll share this really crazy, fascinating story about why I go by Windstorm, Wind for short. And it's a wild one. So that's coming.
I can't wait for that.
Yeah, that would have been one of my questions, but I'm patient. I'll patiently wait for it.
It's too long. It's a very long and elaborate story. It's probably like a 15-minute story. So I'm going to save that for YouTube. So
I love that you just said that about, the karmic wheel and like we're graduating, basically. It's like school. We're going through different lessons and different classes. And what another part of like how we attract similar situations is also what kind of relationships we attract, what kind of people do we keep attracting in our lives. And it's kind of a similar thing. And I have a lot of clients coming that say, I just keep attracting the same relationship partner, like the same type. It's just sometimes even born on the same birthday, like just like and just like keep attracting the same kind of type, just in a different avatar, but the same kind of energy around it. Like, why is that? And so I was wondering, how can you say that, or is there a way with human design to kind of see, okay, this is your human design, this is the other one. How can you like navigate through those triggers, but also what kind of human design would be more fitting to you?
When you say what more human design would be fitting, well, I would actually look at where they're not activated. Like I would look at the gates that are not activated and see if we could find some themes or patterns of why they're being drawn to this person, and if there's unresolved desires or needs not being met from their activated area, or if they're not living in their activated gate, if they're trying to live in the non-activated gate that's on the opposite side of the channel. That's where you can see that's like the coding to give you clues and insights, because on the areas that you're not activated, that you're not designed to live there consistently. So it's bringing up that awareness to you so that you can live and be aware of, okay, this is where I am most consistent. And also, it might be even like shadow aspects. It could illuminate shadow aspects if you're trying to live in an area that you're not designed to live in because it's just not activated. But like the gate that is activated is the polar opposite. It's this harmonic. So it's just, it'll illuminate some ideas that your shadow aspects could be being triggered in your non-activated gate.
Can you touch on that a little bit more? I feel like I get so many DMs and questions about shadow and what does shadow look like and all that. So I'd love to hear your perspective on the way that you're talking about it here.
So shadow comes out as like your negative emotions, like bitter, resentment, judgment, blame, victimhood, all those negative emotions that can come up to the forefront because you're not aware of it. And if you're not aware of it and you deny that, like, it's like if you're all too light, oh, I'm all love, oh, I'm all light, oh, I'm all positive all the time. Well, if you don't acknowledge your shadow or your darkness, it can come up and bite you in the butt. And because we live in a dualistic universe, this is a duality planet. We are in the yin and the yang. We have both light and dark, and Mother Nature, she is, I live right next to where the volcano erupted. That would be considered a tragedy. That's like, darkness or light, because rebirth and generation, it's just, we have storms. It's in the external world. It's in our planet. We see this light and dark, positive, negative, and it's how we navigate these traumatic experiences or these dark forces, and we bring it to a higher perspective and a higher vibration.
Love that. We have a whole episode on that too, with the love and light, the misconceptions about that.
The ugly side of spirituality. I actually just listened to that yesterday morning.
I love that one.
I think the one that, have you listened to it?
I did because it was oh yeah. Oh, I did. I think it was one of the first ones I listened to, because I love shadow work. Love it. It's so juicy.
Oh yeah. We're shadow work like fanatics. So we're just
it's so good.
It's so good. And I think it's a really important thing to talk with people about, whether it's in the collective, in your community, just like it's really important to open up about, because I feel like more and more people are becoming aware of all the medicine that is inside of witnessing a shadow, acknowledging a shadow, working with a shadow, and working on, sitting with it and healing it. But I feel like these are aspects of the spiritual community that I feel like are just starting to get more openly discussed and openly talked about, and really, looking at the toxicity that can lie inside of a love and light only sort of narrative. And I think it's great. And what I wanted to touch on too is the shadow aspects that you had just listed. I pretty much was thinking it was all of the demon, like the demon aspects of the chakras. If you look at some different chakra books, those are like the seed demon aspects of those chakras,
like the main sins in Christianity.
Right. Exactly. Isn't it interesting how it blends and
Overlaps.
is translated in all the modal or the teachings, the modalities, the belief systems. It's everywhere.
It's true. It truly is. It's like it's the true core, right? It's like the seed is there, and then we have different systems that are shining light onto different aspects of that same seed.
And exactly. And we make it such a silly argument over who's right and wrong and whose God is alive and not, and the living.
What's better and worse? What system works better? Or, it's just a different, it just shines light onto different aspects. And actually, it helps us see the whole picture if we come together and look at it together.
Exactly.
Yep.
I always think of a faceted crystal, a faceted stone, the ones that have like a bajillion facets on them, as like, our own dynamicism, the micro to the macro, and just how complex so much is, and how faceted all of us are, how dynamic and complex of beings that all of us are. And not only is every other person in the world, but just everything from the ground up, from the very micro, how all the atoms work together, to like our bodies, how intelligent they are, to, beings and nature and all of it. And it's just I'm loving this conversation, having this dialogue with both of you. These are the friendships that are formulating more and more. It's like taking that depth.
I totally agree. 100%. I'm thoroughly enjoying our conversation. There's so much good info and juice is coming out of it. So thanks for putting on the show. It's amazing.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I feel like for myself, at least, I know that Hannah and I have these kind of conversations all the time. And for people that, are living in areas where they may not have a single other person that they can talk to, but they're feeling the shift inside of themselves, but they're yearning for like just somebody. They don't even necessarily know what they want to talk about, but they just want to talk more deeply about things. And we hope to provide that. We hope to be the sister to those people.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, I love that you were just talking about that, Britt, with how we are so individual and so different, and other things we have so similar. And I know that you just recently did like an IGTV on our different human design charts and the whole comparison thing about it. Mm-hmm. And I know that Wynd was looking at our design charts too, and I would love for you to touch on that.
Okay, let me just pull up. All right, Hannah. So the one thing, you're a manifesting generator, and you and Britt share that type. You ladies are both manifesting generators. So your sacral chakra is activated and defined. And so you really have a lot of energy, and it brings it to the throat. So your throat is activated. So in the throat is the manifestation center. So you have the ability to take your sacral second chakra, the energy, like the movement, the creativity, and bring it into manifestation at a faster level than most people. You have would you say that you have a consistent energy? Like you can, like you operate quickly, and you have a lot of irons in the fire. You have a lot of different interests. You constantly bounce around. You're trying out new things, and a lot of things spark your interest.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So that's a good general overtheme for the manifesting generator.
Yeah. And we're both like that, and we always like talk on the phone and be like, what are we gonna do? We have so many different things. So trying to like prioritize what is important right now, because there's so many different sparks that we have.
Yeah. And it's knowing that and you can try a bunch of different things. It's totally natural for you to try on a lot of different things, and then maybe eventually you'll find things that stick and that you'll really dive into and get to a place of mastery within that. And really for you, it's all about finding your work and your passion and what lights you up and what gets you going and motivated and inspired. And then also remembering to take breaks and rest for yourself if you ever feel too overwhelmed, because it can be easy for you to override like, no, keep going. And it's like, you can still burn out. You have that, I mean, in a different shape, we have that capability as humans. And just remembering to still do self-care and remember to get grounded and to remember that within ourselves and try out and still take care of yourself. That's like the biggest advice I could probably give you.
I love that. My affirmation currently that I'm working with is I am human.
Exactly. Yes.
because for me, I like to operate from like the higher self perspective, and there is like no such thing as not enough energy. It's just like there are so many possibilities. It's like time is infinite. Like there's just so much, and then I have to like always remind myself, hey, I have limitation. I have boundaries. Like I gotta take care of that human Hannah and make sure that she's feeling good. And
yes.
So yeah, definitely feel.
So that's good. I'm so glad you're aware of that and working on that, and it's a good reminder for that. And I'm actually, because since you two are working together on this project, and that you're friends and you collaborate, I wanted to point out that Hannah, you're actually a natural networker. Like you're designed to reach out to others in your community and live from a place where you're all about making connections with other people. Now, I'm wondering how that resonates for you, or if
it depends. It depends. Let's say like that. It depends. The people that I like to make connections with are the people that I can go deep with. I don't like, I'm not a person who likes to just go on social events where I know that most of the people are not going to be having any deep conversations. Like,
right.
So my thing is like, I love to connect with people on a deeper level, and I love to connect with people beyond the veil on the other side. So that's like my main networking capability, I would say.
Okay. Wonderful. Fascinating. And the other thing that I noticed, Hannah, you have this, so you have these tribal channels that are activated in your chart that is this hunter-gatherer aspect. You reach out to your community and you go hunting to gather the resources for the tribe. And the tribe could be exactly who you were talking about, people that you resonate with and that you have experienced harmony and deep conversations with. And
can I interject real quick? I love that you were just saying about like the tribal center and the hunting part, because so every moon, so every new moon, I am pulling oracle cards, and then I put them into frames and I look at them throughout the whole month. And this is the one for this month, and it literally says, be the hunter, not the hunted.
Wow. Oh, that is fascinating.
And I literally last night, I downloaded like a bunch of different stuff in my journal. And one of the things that I wrote is where is it? I am the hunter. Do you see that?
Oh, wow. Wow. That
Beautiful.
And
Thank you
that
so much for sharing that.
Yeah, that really validates an area in your chart that is shown there. That's so fascinating.
How can I like dive deeper into that in that sense through that area?
So for you, it's going to be all about being seen and recognized by others. And it's actually a part of it's in your Mars. So that's all about your masculine energy and getting that out into the world, but it will be recognized by others. So having the intention to gather and garner resources for your tribe and hunting for the benefit of everyone, that way then it'll be recognized by others and be drawn out. Like it is a direct channel that gets up to the throat, so it's manifested channel. Yet because you have a 21.2 in your second line, and it's the lines of the I Ching, the second line is all about being in your element and being a natural and having other people see and recognize and drawing that out of you. So being the hunter, and it'll be drawn out of you for the benefit of everybody else.
I love how that correlates to in astrology, to my God's finger that has the focal point to Mars. And one of the other points is Mercury and then Pluto. So it's like Mercury, the communication center, and Pluto, the masses and the influence over a massive amount of people. And then that Mars. So I love, like, while you were talking, I was like, ooh, connecting in my head. I'm like, ooh, that's like my God's finger right there.
Wow. Yeah. And that is an actually conscious aspect. There's two aspects. You have your design body that activates, and that's where they get that number is from 3 months prior to birth. And that is where your soul is connected to the body. That's that point. So there are these unconscious aspects, and then your conscious aspects is the day of your birth. And you have this whole channel. They actually call it the money line in human design. It's the hunter meets the gatherer, which is in the throat, and that's an unconscious aspect, but they call it the king and the queen. For your in case, you would be the queen, because it's all about gathering people and commonality to find like a common thread and to bring everyone together under one kingdom. So it's like you have this coming together under one kingdom and being able to provide for them, and like being like having the material resources. And so that's actually in your chart, and that's in your design to do that.
Oh, I love that. It's part of my dream to buy land and build community.
Yes. Yes, that's actually in that. You can see that in your chart as well. That shows up in, yes, it's in your moon. Yes. So there's also this gate called, it's the gate 14. It's in the sacral center. It's in your moon. So wherever your moon at, so you know the astrology, so wherever the placement of your moon is, but it's prosperity and really prosperity, and knowing that it is God given to you. Like any material resources and wealth that you have been given, it is like, oh, God allowed, like God gave this to me. It wasn't like your ego wasn't necessarily driven to gather it. It's like this nice balance of all of my resources because I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'm aligned with my purpose on this planet, and God supports me, and then therefore, I'm able to do this for my tribe. So that's another beautiful aspect that shows up for your chart.
Love it. And my moon is in my 9th house, which is the house of that higher calling.
Wonder! Oh, awesome! Wonderful.
Yep.
I wonder how many podcasts they have like just out there with like 2 experts in their field that are just discussing topics like this. I feel like it's just so beautiful hearing you two just like ooh and over all this.
We could talk for days on days.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we could really talk for days. I mean, I'm giving you just little tidbits of what I notice and what stands out for me. that I find interesting within your charts, how you guys match each other. So Hannah and Brittany. Okay, so let me see here. Okay. Oh, and you ladies are both, I have this other fancy chart that I use, and one of the things is how you operate in business, and you both, in terms of your ideal cooperative, how you like to cooperate best with each other is actually through your networks. Like, you could have no preference, you could like organizations, you could like being a solo person. There's a different type of how you work with each other, and you both like being network, like you prefer your network. So it's like your small groups of people that you can collaborate with and cooperate with, and it's like your small little groups, and then the word of mouth, and then like people start to know, and then it starts to spread, and then that's how you get your message out, and that's how you work best.
So that makes so much sense to me, because I've been literally, my whole business so far has been mostly mouth to mouth, word to mouth. Mouth to mouth.
Word of mouth.
Hey, word of mouth.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. I also thought that there's something interesting between your two charts, was that, so you have a talent, and Brittany, your talent is in analysis. So you're really, I don't know how this resonates for you, but it says you like to analyze things, or really research information or knowledge or wisdom, and apply that to life. And then Hannah, you're actually here to disseminate that information and share it with others.
Yeah, I feel like when I think of analysis, like my whole fascination with life is based in human experience, based in my own human experience. So really looking back into my map of like everything that has formed me into the person that I am right now in this very moment, and how it ultimately has imprinted me in a way that once I gain awareness over those imprintations, I'm able to then enact different healing tools and things so that I can bring myself into greater balance. And that's exactly what I feel like I'm meant to share here in the world, is like, hey, for everybody that has all these qualms and issues and challenges and stuff, we can identify with that as long as we want to, but ultimately we are able to shift, and we are able to change, and starting to bring that narrative down. That's just like, oh, well, these are the cards I was dealt. This is what, this is what I'm going through for my entire life. But it doesn't have to be like a sad sob story, and you can make your life whatever it is that you want it to be. That's what it says to me.
Yeah, definitely. And that definitely, it works because you have your sun in gate 20, which is the contemplation of the now. So it's all about communication and manifestation, and sharing that knowledge that you receive from your sacral center, because your earth is in the sacral center, gate 34, and that's power. And kind of like that raw power to get like the ball rolling, and then being able to communicate that to everyone and share that knowledge of what you experience. Because it's so, the sacral chakra and the second center is all about like really earthly life. It's really about interacting with people and having a human experience, and being made of we're made out of water and matter and flesh, and we're it's that movement through life as we take the root of the physical form, and then moving that physical form through life. So it's absolutely like natural for you to be in the juiciness of life and communicate that and share that, and that being like your gift to the planet and to everyone.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it feels a little self-indulgent I guess self-indulgent is a good way to put it, about sharing my own processes and healing practices and things online with people. But I always want to convey a message that like, it's not for me to be like, oh, look at me, look at my life. It's like, I want you to see what I'm doing so that you know that you can do it too, because all of us have access to the same stuff. All the same systems are out there. I'm just setting aside time and really approaching life with a conscious awareness that says, I want to know all the magic that I'm able to get into in this life. And like, all of it's here. And I'm just sharing, the things that I found in the hundreds of hours of self-study because of the past that I had no idea who I was. And I had no idea that people could be so, individual. I feel like it's like the perfect form. And just to relate that whole piece of my passion being in nostalgia, for me, I linked that together when I found out that my Mars is in Cancer in the 12th house, which is like 12th house is like ruler of the subconscious, and Cancer energy is like all about your ties to the family, ties to home, ties to the mother, ties to nostalgia, ties to your memories. And for me, like my Mars, the things that turn me on, the thing that I like love talking about so much with all of my Gemini placements is about the subconscious. I like live to know what's in the subconscious mind, and my Chiron is also there in the 12th house in Cancer. So really feeling the wounds and the hurts that I've accumulated in my subconscious, and then being able to like work those out, and now communicating it outward is like my greatest passion of life.
Yeah, that actually is seen in your chart as well. You have so when I'm looking at is you have, and since you're familiar with your chart, you know how your head and your ajna and your third eye are totally open?
So empty.
They're totally empty, but that doesn't mean that like you don't have any ideas or thoughts. What it actually means is that you have you're very flexible in your understanding. You're not designed to stick with one thought and have that be like, I can confirm that. No, this is, you're able to really receive a whole bunch of ideas and concepts and conceptualize and really like toss around ideas and probabilities and like notice things, and then be like, well, I'm going to share this, and it's up to you what you interpret it to be. And because this is my experience, and this is what I've noticed from within my own design, from my own perspective of life. And, let's just see how that resonates with you. And if it doesn't resonate, that's great. But like, I'm open, and you even might be flexible in your truth, like within your own truth, or like in your own ideas and your concepts. You could easily like, I have this idea one day, and then the next day be like, or not even like literally the next day, but over time you have a new life experience, and then it triggers something in your awareness and your consciousness. And then you're like, oh, that transforms my original perspective into something new. So you have this like very fluidity and flexibility within your charts. And that's another thing that I'd love to identify when you look at your charts. You have definition, you have things that are undefined. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have these areas. Or like, what do you mean I don't have any, my head is completely undefined? Like, I can't have thoughts? No, that's not the case. It means that it's just a different way of using that energy. All your open centers are places of wisdom and lessons, and all of your defined centers are where it's consistent energy for you to use to go about in your life and play your role in this matrix of matter.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that description. I don't know if you saw the thing that Hannah was talking about a few minutes ago, my Instagram story, where I showed both mine and her human design charts and talked about, I would love to know your perspective on this. Like sometimes in my human experience, and just being so close with Hannah and hearing about her downloads and her messages from her spirit guides and these incredible like dream challenges that she like very lucidly like becomes like a part of, you know, like there are all these things that she tells me about, and I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, I want to develop that for myself, and like I feel like I should connect with that more. And you know, all these comparison games that start going on because it seems like it would be such a cool experience to have. And for me, at least, when I looked at her chart for the first time and saw that her Krona and Ajna like centers were defined, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's like a piece of the definition, that she has these access points that are like her defined places that she goes for guidance.
That's actually I love that you pulled that together. And yes, that is exactly, you're so on the point for that one, because I have an open head in Ajna as well. I have some definition. I have gates that are active, but totally open and undefined. And I don't have those experiences. Yet I have a girlfriend who is a professional medium and tarot reader, but she's actually been a medium, and she's a manifesting generator, and she does this professionally. And her head in Ajna is totally defined. So I have a feeling that must be a thing. And actually, that would be something for me to look into, to find the where that's at, because, or like the intricacies and like the details between both of them, because I'm sure there's some similarities there, because some channels are activated, and that I find fascinating, because I can't talk to the other side. I don't hear them. They don't. I mean, I'm aware of it. I've seen things, but nothing that comes in internally. So I find that a very fascinating connection that you put together. And yeah, like, and that's the great thing about human design too, is that once you recognize that everyone is different, you stop playing the comparison game and just focus on, let me live my design to the best of my ability. And it doesn't matter because what other people are doing. It doesn't matter because they're doing them to the best of their ability. And we're so different. Like there's so many like little intricacies that everyone is different. Everyone is a unique expression of divine creation.
Yeah, I feel like especially now, I feel like we're seeing a lot of shifts with social media and people becoming aware of the comparison game and how prevalent it can be with social media especially. And it seems like this is the next avenue, and this is exactly where human design and astrology intricacies, like the actual foundation, and not just talking about, oh, Mercury retrograde, come in, when people start opening up dialogue on like just how unique and complex these systems are, so that we can stop playing the comparison game, because we know that we're playing it now. We know that we're playing it. And when we can look at these maps and say, like, there's a line in this book that says, I think Ross said, like, if you live by your design for 7 years, you will have an entirely different existence. If you devote yourself to like approaching life by saying like, oh, these are the things that I'm mechanized for, that are like ingrained within me, you know? So
wow.
I really love that.
So this is coming up for me, my 7 year, because 2012 is when I met Alex, and that shifted. September 2012 is when I met Alex, and that shifted everything. And his mom was actually the one who gifted me an astrology book. It was called the Astrology of what is it called? The Astrology of the Aquarian Age, and it was written in the 70s. And the lady, I want to say her name is Alexandra Meyer, I want to say. And she wrote that, I wish that the person who is reading this will take this knowledge and bring it back into modern times, because it is so needed in this age of Aquarius. And she was writing this in the 70s, and I read it 40 years later, or even longer. And I was yeah, and I just felt like she was talking to me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And that's what actually sparked me to dive deeply into astrology and you know, get certified and all of that. It's like intensely diving into it. But yeah, I find it so fascinating, and I think it just helps so much to know our energetic makeup, if that's through, you know, the chakra system, if that's through human design, through astrology, through numerology even. Those are just such amazing tools to get to know ourselves on a deeper level. And from that on, stepping into leadership with so much more courage and embracing our authority. And imagine a world where everybody would know who they are.
Oh, wow. Wow. Talk about changing everything. Everything would change because it starts within. You have to internally, with awareness, and then change from awareness with inside yourself, because then that is essentially translated to the external world. And people think that like the external world comes first and you have to change that, and you change the circumstances. No. It's the internal shifts, and then the external world comes next, because you can change your external world, but if you don't change from the inside, you're just going to create the same situation. The same patterns are going to show up to you.
Yeah. And I love how you just said that, like the microcosmos goes into the macrocosmos. And because it's like the same, we see so much war in this world. There's so much fighting over different topics and resources. And it's because a lot of us are in war with ourselves. We're in war with our true selves. Like we have this inner voice that is saying, I don't like going to this job. This is not my passion. I don't like doing these things that we do on a regular basis, that the food that you're feeding me, the information that I'm receiving all day, that the way that you talk to me. And it's this inner voice that is inside of us, but we're thinking that we should ignore that and just keep on hustling and grinding and doing the matrix stuff to succeed in this physical world, because someone else told us that that's how you can be successful. But in reality, we are actually in war with our true self. And if we just connected to our true self, knowing like, oh wow, this is what I'm really good at, this is what brings me joy, and this is how I can unlock that sacred wealth. Because like you were saying, like I truly believe that when we're following our heart, we are being provided by the universe with all the resources that we need at any given time. And when we do our calling and do the things that we're meant to be doing while incarnated here on earth, that is helpful for the collective, we are going to be provided. And so making that shift from that fear-based mentality to the more loving mentality is truly through that self-knowledge that gives us that power.
I love that. Yeah.
And then also, I feel like the gathering of the information is such a valuable tool. And then also it's like a two-parter, because then also sitting with that knowledge that you've intaken and really questioning yourself and asking yourself, what does this actually look like for me in my life? What does this feel like? Because I feel like sometimes whenever, and that's what keeps the conversations kind of surface, like with astrology or even numerology and things, it's like the intuitive nature hasn't, it seemed like, had the time to process like what the greater depth and meaning is of the information that they've gathered. And it's almost just like a regurgitating of the knowledge of the, you know, the stuff that someone else said that they feel resonated for them on a deep level, or something they read in a book and they just regurgitate the information they read in the book. But what I've found works so potently, and what I feel like is the key for me to be able to engage with people, whether it's at an in-person workshop or, with social media, is actually relaying how this looks in my life.
Yeah.
I try having those conversations with people all the time. Like, so how do you feel as a Virgo sun? What does this look like for you? I'm so fascinated to know. And so many people, I'm not saying that it's a good or a bad or a right or a wrong thing. Maybe just they haven't been prompted to really question themselves and say like, oh my gosh, because I get more often than not, I get that response. Like, I have never thought about that before. What does it look like for me? Not just the label and slapping a label on me and being like, this is who I am.
Right.
But,
yeah.
Really developing that greater meaning is the stuff I think that can provide the lasting, sustainable shifts and the sustainable change.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's actually part of the courses and workshops that I'm working on. It's empowering people to really live their design by guiding them through an experience of doing it themselves. And that there's a whole sequence of steps, and I have worksheets and things to play with, but it's really tapping into the awareness of your design so that you start to understand how you're designed, instead of like a typical reading, which I do typical readings where I educate people into, if they have a specific question, I educate people into where their strengths and weaknesses may be, or if they have any specific questions that they're having problems with, or they're stuck, or they're wondering how they can best use their design. I get a lot of questions like that, and I illuminate. I share what I have, and I see what the knowledge says. But then I also take it to them, and I ask them questions about, how does this show up in your life? Like, what does it feel like to have this? Did you know that you have this as your strength? Did you know that like maybe this might be a little bit detrimental? And so how can we have an awareness to that so that it's not coming up as a surprise and you're wondering like, well, why is it like that? And it's like, well, we have the tools to navigate that. And it's very, with my open head and Ajna center, third eye center, I'm really designed not to be certain on anything. I allow you to be to interpret the information. I'm like, I'm just the guide and the messenger giving you this information about yourself, and I can help you walk through potential scenarios or what this might look like for you, but you're essentially the one that has to do the work. And how can I empower you? It's almost like I'm going to teach you how to fish. I'm not going to give you I'll give you some of the fish, but I'm going to teach you how to fish at the same time.
I love that you just mentioned this, because that's a similar evolution that I am going through, or have been going through as well, because I have been, doing astrology readings for the past 6 years. And that was one of the things that bothered me. At some point, I started to feel like I don't want to just be the one giving out knowledge or information. And then I started shifting it from me being the one that talks most of the time in the reading to like asking questions because of things I see in the chart, and prompting people to explore that in their own life. And then also through hypnosis or, guided meditation, in a sense, to like experience the energies from within as well, and see how does that feel like to have a moon in Scorpio, or like what does that actually look like in my life, and how can I, when do I feel that way, what is that in my chart, how does that look like? And then you can like start becoming aware of that in your regular life. And it's not like a one-time thing. You go to a reading, have all the information, and then it's like, nah, then it's like not really applied. Like that's what I've noticed. Like you get the information. Like I know it from just reading like the human design chart, whatever you can find on the internet about it, or if I, go onto Cafe Astrology and read my birth chart or whatever, it's like, oh, that's like a nice information, and you see it and it's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. But then after a few days, you're going to forget about it. And it's just,
it doesn't stick.
Yeah, it doesn't stick because it's not planted in the subconscious. It doesn't have the roots. And as soon as there's a little bit of a wind, it just blows away. So yeah, I love that you're doing that with your classes too. And I've noticed that in the collective that a lot of readers are actually shifting towards that now because of the feeling of like, I don't want to just be almost like dependent. Like, I don't want you to be dependent on me giving you advice on how to live your life. I'm here to like show you this is what's happening in your chart, and you're the one taking control of that, and co-creating your own reality from that perspective and from that knowledge. So
taking the seed of awareness and knowledge and watching it grow and express itself as its own plant, that's where humanity, becoming ourselves and living ourselves and being in alignment with our true soul, center, spirit, God, source, everything, and then express that out here in this reality, in this dimension. Yeah, like we said earlier, imagine the world of what we could create coming from that place. I mean, I dream of that and living that experience. I don't know if I'm going to do it in this lifetime, but we can only hope. But I'll just come back and, make sure that.
Yeah, I want to say that I feel like this is a hallmarker of really great teachers. And I want to honor both of you in saying this as well. One of the things that not drew me to, but just that really captivated me about my own yoga teacher, Annie Carpenter, was this exact idea. And she's in her 60s, and she says, you never want to make your students a hostage to your room, like that they feel that they have to continue coming back in order to get the same adjustments that like make them feel really good or alleviate some stress or some pain in their body. You want to teach someone how we're externally rotating our shoulders and melting the shoulder blades down your back to ease the pressure or tension on the cervical spine, not just coming by someone and doing the adjustment for them every single class. And they have like no knowledge of what it is that you're doing, only that it feels good. You want to be giving people that knowledge so that they can take it. And you don't want to make people hostage to your class. You want to help them grow so that they continue onward and they don't have to come to your class just to not be in pain.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. I love that you relate that into a yoga class. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful example of giving people and empowering people to make their own choices and stand on their own 2 feet and not be so codependent. And because now we have that, everyone becoming so much more aware of, I'm going to give my power away to this other person and like I can't do it without them. And it's like, no. They are your guide and your teacher, and you are so strong and you are so powerful that you can do it yourself. Yeah. And we believe in you. I believe in you.
I love that. And what just came up for me, it's so funny because that was one of the things that I had like big troubles with within the Catholic Church, because, I was raised Catholic, and I always said like, I don't need to go to the priest. Like I can talk to God directly. And then my dad was like, no, you can't. You can only do this through the priest. The priest is the channel to God. And I'm like, no, I don't believe that. I think that we all are. And and that's literally what religion kind of created. And that's going to be the religion's downfall if they don't transform that through Age of Aquarius, because people become aware. I don't want to be dependent on a system or dependent on some governing authority over myself that tells me what to do and what's the right thing. But I want to learn from that authority to find out how to do that on my own, ultimately.
And same in Christianity, it's Jesus Christ that you have the access point as. That's why you devote your life to Jesus.
Yeah, Catholic is Christianity. It's just, yeah. I know in America it's like seen as different, but it's Christianity. It's just a branch into more intense of it.
Yeah, I was born and raised Catholic too, Hannah. Yep, went to private Catholic school.
Ooh,
yep,
you got the full package.
Oh, the full whole package. Yes, and luckily I have really great parents that let me be me. And when at around 18, when I was like, well, you're an adult now, you can make your own choice. And they never tried to like convince me of anything, but it was just, you have to have good morals and you have to be a good, upstanding human. I was like, okay, I can do that. So, but yeah, no,
How would you say does religion correlate to the human design?
How does religion correlate to human design? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is it can get a little fundamentalist. Human design can be a little bit dogmatic at times if you really sticking primarily with the logic side and like this is the facts, this is the nuts and bolts. But one has to remember that we are feminine and masculine, positive, negative, up, down, all like the word polarity, integrating within the human channel, down the middle, center point, coming into center. Isn't that interesting how when you namaste or you pray, you place both of your hands, your left and your right side, to the center of your heart because you're trying to find your center balancing point between the positive and the masculine. So even human design it has that potential to be a little bit too masculine, but that's why it's really beautiful how a lot of the readers and people taking it to another level where it's, you're taking this as a tool and then it's a way to communicate and educate and allow other people to figure it out on their own and empower them to come to their own conclusions about how this resonates or doesn't and how this fits into their life. And it can be kind of like a religion. Yeah, it can be, you can hold to it to a T or take it very literally. But I found like everything, like finding like the feminine, the masculine, and finding that balance point within inside of yourself and taking what resonates and leaving what doesn't, and coming to the conclusion on your own and finding your own spirit and source and God creation manifesting through your body and through your words, and taking that, and that's how you have a more integrated life, more in balance, and living more harmoniously with nature and your neighbor and your family, your friends, your relative, those that are closest to you. That's where I feel that's how that falls into place.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I love that we're touching on this topic. I think you can really bring the dogma to anything, right?
Yeah.
It depends on
really
the person. I spend a lot of time watching different YouTubers accounts, and I love engaging in dialogue in the comment sections. And I wrote on, I think it was Claire Michelle. No, I know it was Claire Michelle. Her name is Plantiful Soul on Instagram and YouTube. And she has very vulnerably and courageously been sharing her awakening process in the last few years. And of course, with that comes a lot of blowback. So she was getting interviewed by someone, and, she's saying these things. She's Pisces sun, and she's like, the ocean is the safest place in the world. And just like this very, very dreamer, she's showing up so beautifully as a Pisces sun. And I wrote that in the comments. I was like, this is a reason I love that Claire is documenting her stuff, because she's such a beautiful depiction of her sun sign. Like, even though it rubs people the wrong way, how dreamy she is a lot of times, it's like, this is exactly the thing to look at, is the places that we want to reject other people and say, like, get back to reality. And, your head is in the clouds, your head is underwater, come up for air. And, of course, I got a bunch of feedback from a ton of people. One woman wrote me a freaking essay, and she was like, she's like, I've been practicing astrology for 8 years, and sadly, you are obviously not very learned. And I would never say that Pisces is a dreamer and all this stuff. And it was like an essay on how wrong I was. And unfortunately, you haven't mastered this skill yet. I can see that you're not talented or skilled. And I engaged in dialogue with her for a little while. And I was like, this is fascinating. Like, let's really talk about it. I think that, coming to a firm conclusion on any sort of system like this is something to look at.
Definitely.
And of course, she like wrote me back again, and she was just like judging me super harshly. And I was like, oh, I'm not even going to give you my time for a response anymore.
Be like, honey, I love you. I see where you're at. That's yours. Yeah. I got mine. I love you. And we're going to take it from there.
Yeah. So we can bring that belief system, that harsh borders, boundaries, confines, black and white mentality to literally anything. And, it just becomes more and more apparent, I feel like, when you're engaging with other people in dialogue on, what something looks like for them. It's like, who would ever shut somebody down? Don't do that.
Don't do that. Support everyone, and just, even if like you don't agree, you don't have to say anything. Like, there's no purpose. It's not to make yourself sound better or trying to prove a point. That's a really big human lesson, is why waste your time and energy on something just to be quote unquote right, and to prove a point, when we are all different. We all have different perspectives, and just honoring and supporting each other, because you just don't know where everyone's at. And all you can do is just, if they come at you with that, you just have to love them and, just be like, okay, boundaries. I love you. Yeah. You're over there doing your thing.
Exactly. Loving from afar. I just wanted to touch on that because I think it's important.
Thank you. I love that you brought that up. I mean, 100%. I think it's really important also because for those that will be listening to this podcast, and if they are dogmatic, fundamentalist human design, sure, there's a lot of things that I probably could be saying that might rub them the wrong way. And that's not, but you know what, honey, I love you regardless of whatever you think. And, I think that's the most important message, to get up to the higher vibration of unconditional love and acceptance. Because that's the only way that life's going to change and for everyone.
And just being aware that not one system is going to be the ultimate key for everything. Just as we were saying before, it just shines light onto a certain aspect of the human experience. Yes. And it's just such a good reminder for us who are practitioners of these self-knowledge systems to always remind ourselves to not just get stuck in those rules of the structure of the system, and still allow ourselves to like look at things from a different perspective. So human design, astrology. I love that you're an expert in astrology, Hannah. I love it. And that we can collaborate and see like the different parts and pieces of how they all interlay with each other. And because it's two different modalities that are similar, and they're just pieces of the puzzle, and how they play within the human perspective, or from the human perspective, and being a human being, it's just taking it to just be more with our true selves and expressing that externally. Beautiful.
Wow, what a beautiful conversation this has been. We had wanted to talk about the incarnation crosses too.
For sure, yes. Totally forgot about it. I feel
like the incarnation cross is like the North Node.
It can, yes, definitely. It definitely plays into that. So, wow. And that's interesting that you say that, Britt, because your incarnation cross specifically, like your South Node and your North Node match your unconscious sun and earth sign. So your incarnation cross is the sun and the earth of your personality and your design. And that is the energy that colors 70% of your life experience. I like to call it the pivot point where you experience life and your purpose. And it basically colors or blankets your soul and like what you're designed to do and where your most prominent energy is. And for you, Britt, yours is the cross of the sleeping phoenix. And yours is also particularly in the quarter of civilization, meaning you take the mental concepts and bring it into physical form. And like you're making, so the beauty of the sleeping phoenix is that you're constantly like, you have a lot of like juice and ideas and you're active and you're waiting for the mutation and the transformation to happen through this activity. How do you navigate crisis in your life? Or like crisis might be a theme for you, or like how to navigate crisis. Yeah. So you're emotionally defined. So you like crisis for you, navigates transformation or catalyzes you for transformation. And so as you move forward in your life, like you have these emotional ups and downs that bring into awareness this catalyst for shift and change within inside of yourself. You go through these crises to catapult you in new directions.
Yeah.
And rise out of the ashes like a phoenix.
Yeah, I feel that so deeply. I feel like the depth that's inside of me is very much like the internal aspects of me, like maybe outwardly emotionally I'm not super all over the place, going ups and downs, but definitely internally. And I always associated that with my Cancer rising, just having this like this vast depth that's always very like in tune with myself. And the way that I associate what you just said is, and to provide a tiny bit of context, just this last week, I think Teal Swan uploaded this video onto her Instagram where she was giving a talk and saying that she wanted us to think of trauma on a spectrum, and that we can, be experiencing big, huge war zones, and that's a piece of trauma. And then it could be even at the low end of the spectrum, like a child being weaned off a breast. Like child isn't able to communicate. Usually whenever people stop breastfeeding, child's not able to communicate that they would like to still be receiving that connection, that nutrition, that, connectivity with mom and that nurturing time. But they are, what was the definition she said for trauma was having, basically having something happen to you that you have no say in or that you have no resolution for. And baby is, shaping and developing their perception of what life is from those experiences from a very young age. So I feel like the life that I've had with having to move houses so much and having to go to different schools every year and never knowing who my friend group was. And, just like, I feel like it helped me develop my witnessing observer at a very, 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 very young age. Just being able to really like see everything that was going on around me. I don't know if that's something I was born with or something that I developed because of my environment. But especially when I was in my bullying phases, like getting dragged around on playgrounds and getting thrown into trash cans, like these things were happening to me that I always felt like I was above myself, witnessing the scenario that was saying like, what, why is this happening to me? Like, what can I do? That's why I showed up so fully from a place that said, who do you want me to be? I'll be anyone that you want me to be. I don't care. Just like accept me. I'm not going to be here for that long. So just be my friend. And, don't be,
don't be mean to me. Like at some points in 7th grade, I was eating all my school lunches in my counselor's office because I was so bullied. Like the people that I thought were my friends would be like, you know, you should shave your mustache and go eat your lunch on the toilet. So I would go and eat my lunch on the toilet in 7th grade. You know, it's like, so then I became best friends with my counselor in 7th grade. And these were the experiences. This is what shaped me. So while some people can on the outside look in and say, oh, bullying happens, get over it. Just be strong. Just say no. Just, you know, fight them or hit them or things like that. It might not seem so traumatic. They might not be able to acknowledge the trauma that I'm going through in these times, but I saw it and I felt it. And I do feel like I was constantly having to know that the burn was coming and I've been ready for it. So I feel like I feel like that resonates really, really deeply for me.
Yeah, I love that you tied all that together. And yeah, that's a really good example of how this can manifest. And like, but it made you who you are, all of your challenges, you know, as a soul, you're never given something that you can't handle. And it's here to give you all of your life experiences, give you something that builds your character and it develops your soul into more consciousness. And like that was it was your cross to bear, essentially, which is why they call it the incarnation cross in this physical plane. And that it made you the person that you are today.
And I just want to add too, I had my lunch too in the toilet and in the library.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, it's so funny because for my for the other people in class, they were all looking forward for a break for the school break or recession, or how do you call it in English? And that was like my worst time until I like at the later times in school when I got a little older. That's when I met my girlfriends that I connected with. But before, like the first 5 years probably, I was a lot in the library by myself, or in the toilet, or in the restroom.
Yeah. Do you mean at recess? You mean you would go into
yes
into stalls at recess? Me too.
Oh my gosh.
We would be released for playtime, and I knew the bullying crowds and all the people that wanted to like beat me up, and they were waiting for me to come on the playground. So I would just go into a bathroom stall and hang out until we had to go back to class.
Yeah, and I was just I didn't get hit by. I don't think I got hit by anyone, but I got like emotionally bullied, and I was just like avoiding all of those confrontation. I was like, no, I don't need this. I just want to have my recharge time for myself. And it's funny too, because I'm still doing it this way. When I need time, I take it for myself. I don't want to be around any other person. I'm like, I want to be alone. This is like my alone time. And I remember, like, even as a kid, I still wanted to have that alone time. It's not like a break for me when I hang out with other people.
Yeah.
That's like work, almost like, but it's fun, but it's like, it's also work, you know? But I think that's kind of like part of being an introvert, or you know, mostly introvert, that I recharge my energy by being alone. And
oh, okay, I wanted to throw something out there. Brittany, did you know that your environment is caves? That you do best like when you're able to retreat into your own environment, like your own sanctuary at your house?
Oh, I've never heard that, but yeah, that's me for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a caves person too, so I really like to hermit out and like have my own little sanctuary. I can go out and be social, but I really like coming to my home and like, you know, having a smaller home, like not too many entrances or exits, just really simple, just like my little cave. And I like just like being in my little space and being very selective.
Do you know if you have strong Cancer energy in your astrology chart too? I've always associated that with my Cancer rising.
I will have to. I'm a Leo rising, but I'll have to look. I'll have to look and see. But that's a really good tidbit of info. I'll have to check out.
Yeah, Hannah's gonna do it too.
Okay. Oh, okay, great.
For the listeners, they've already heard it.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Oh, fun. And then for Hannah, I want to ask you a question because your environment is, do you have a lot of music on usually? Like, how are you with sound? Like, do you like playing music often in the background? Like, do you play any instruments or?
Yeah, music has been a key part of my life. Just my whole family my parents are very musical. We've been singing and playing instruments. That's what I know. And I sing for myself and have, either Disney songs on when I'm with my daughter, or like a lot of binaural beats and whale sounds and background music for sure. That's how I've been designing the whole planner and journal, just like putting my headphones in on binaural beats and whale sounds and just letting it come through.
That definitely, that shows up in your chart. Imagine that.
So the environment is, for you, it's caves. And then for me, it's music.
Hannah, you actually, even though you said that you're an introvert, you do well. Your environment would technically be kitchens or like being in the mix of it all. At least that's what it says. You would be like to be like in, not the marketplace, but more in like where like families get together. Like where, like in the room where like you can mix and match certain, you can take elements and bring them together and transform them to something new. So that's actually like your environment. And I don't know how that resonates with you.
I mean, the mix and match of bringing certain elements together and create something new for sure.
Okay.
The kitchen part, I'm not ultimately a kitchen person. I think that's Brittany more.
Okay, I was gonna say I bring the kitchen to Hannah.
Yeah, I cook because I like to eat from like healthy, but I don't need to do it. If I had to cook, I would be completely happy with not having to cook. But I do like family gatherings and like even like sacred sister gatherings, like with people with souls that I'm resonating with. I do enjoy those gatherings. Yeah.
So that would be like a good example of how that plays out, like your small network of like getting together and like transforming the energy of getting together. They use these words as just very like vague descriptions, but I would have to say that caves and then lines 1 and 2, caves and markets would be 2. Those are the 2 like definitely very almost literal, but 3, 4, 5, and 6 very abstract in their meaning and how they play out in your life. So and that there's many different ways of how this plays out. It's just a little bit of information. The reason why I mentioned sound for you is because that's part of your design. And Brittany, yours is touch. You and I actually have the same thing. But I like to relate it to the heart chakra. The 4th chakra is the heart chakra of touch. And I like to think of it as just like a way of networking with people, or how like you digest life. And it could like mean maybe literal digestion, but I like to think of how you just process and accumulate information or digest information in life. Britt and I are both touch, and that's to me is the heart chakra and like connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel that deeply as well. Go ahead, Hannah.
So I would just like to, because we've been talking about the incarnation cross. Actually, do you have anything to say about mine?
I do.
I was going to say, we haven't talked about yours
I know.
yet.
I got off on a segue because I got excited there for a minute. But yeah, thank you for pulling me back. So yes, the cross of contagion for Miss Hannah. So Hannah, your life purpose is brought about through duality and relationships with other people. So that's just something good for you to know. Part of your incarnation cross contagion is it's all about commitment. Yes. So your steadfast commitment welcomes new cycles of experiences. So when you're able to say yes to life and experiences, you are given like that vital force that keeps you consistent with the life experience and the life circumstances, no matter how difficult they are. So you have this ability to really like endurance or fortitude that really gets you through life's challenges. By committing and being clear about your challenges, you bring relief. And through bonding with other people, and I'm going to guess that by your astrology readings, this is how you're able to really dive deep into like sharing this knowledge. Britt, you have a very individual incarnation cross, where Hannah, yours is very for the collective. It's for sharing information for other people that catapults them. It's a little bit of individual. That's your design. Your design is very individual, but your personality really identifies with sharing your information and knowledge for the benefit of the collective.
Yeah.
I love to read these little depictions in this book too, because I think it speaks beautifully to what you were just saying about Hannah. The right angle cross of contagion, innocent instruments of fate who can step in and unexpectedly change the fate of others through experience, discovery, and learning. I feel like I just read this. I was doing a bunch of notes before this, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know, out of the however many dozens of crosses there can be, that's like so you with your teaching and coaching and reading, and I feel like that's just so you. So I had to put that in there. And then for me, it says right angle cross of the sleeping phoenix until 2027. And I wanted to inquire why it says until 2027, but it says people busy seeking access to spirit through love and bonding, who in this quest experience transformation of death and rebirth. And I was like, yes. Yes, exactly. So is that what you mean whenever you say mine is pretty individual? Because it's not necessarily correlating to anyone else. Like this, I'm living my path by knowing myself and spirit more deeply.
Yes, exactly. And it's because you're the 2034 is actually an individual channel, where Hannah's 29 and 30 are actually collective gates. Hers doesn't make a complete channel. It's there's only 3 sun and earth sign combinations that make whole channels throughout our yearly cycle on the wheel. But Hannah's is both 29 and 30, and they're both abstract, sensing, sharing information for the collective, which is also probably why she's really great at being a medium for talking with the other side. So I'm going to assume that that's that too, and sharing the messages for the collective of messages from the other side. And that's part of the contagion.
I love that. And it makes so much sense to me, because actually I learn a lot from Brittany about how to feel more into myself. because I do think a lot of like, how can I be of service to the collective, and think about the group mindset. I'm Aquarius rising too, with my Uranus in the 11th house conjunct my Saturn, which is trine my sun. So I have a lot of that group mentality thinking of like, helping humanity evolve in consciousness. And Brittany is actually one of the inspirations for me to start sharing more about my own journey. And instead of, giving out just information and transformation to other people, but also being like, okay, now I'm just going to talk about myself. And for a long time, I felt like I shouldn't do that or shouldn't be that way, because I don't want to make it feel like it's all about me, or, you know, it's self-indulgent, just like what Britt was talking about before. But I love that that's her cross, and that's what I'm most inspired by her, the way that she just like shares her personal stories and her personal life like that with the public.
Yeah, and notice how everyone's so different. You know, like she has her gifts, you have your gifts, and then collaborating together and cooperating with each other, it just, you know, you make it, that's where like that chemistry and that kitchen, taking like two elements and bringing them together and manifesting that into a whole new form, or manifesting that.
Yes, I can feel the kitchen part, like when you talk about it like that, because I think I do that with different systems. I bring them together in my kitchen, and I create like a new structure.
yes, exactly. So much of a metaphor. It's such a great metaphor. It was just kind of like, how do you amplify this energy, or how do you describe this energy in one word? And so that's that energy. It's not so literal. They just use it as like, what do you do in the kitchen? You take a couple elements, you put them together, you make a beautiful meal. It turns into this other thing. You know, it's transformation. It's transformational. So I love that.
See, this is, I feel like that other piece that we were talking about earlier that was saying how you wanted to put the knowledge in other people's hands and then say, okay, here's the stuff. Now you go learn how to do it. Same thing, because it's like the super subtle ways that only the recipient can receive in the way that resonates for them. Like maybe you'll say the right thing that hits the nail on the head, but maybe not. And if you don't, then they might walk away from the system being like, didn't resonate. Not true. Totally not legit. And it's like, that does such a disservice to the whole thing that we're trying to show up for. And I wanted to say that, just speaking on that, thank you, Hannah, for saying that. I don't know that you've ever told me that in that exact way. So thank you for saying that. But I feel like I'm in the middle of reading Mickey Agrawal's book, Disrupt Her, right now. And she, I love her. She's an Aquarius sun, and just so, I love the way that she communicates so much. And she says, about how we engage with other people when we feel a connection to them. And since I'm so connected to Hannah and I know so much of her story, that's what really like she's putting coins in my bank that make me invested in her because of the experiences that she has as a person. I trust her. I trust the knowledge that she's giving out. I trust the insights that she has, because I feel like I know her. And that's what I get more than any other comment that I get from the years that I've had sharing my healing stories on social media, is like people either saying like, thank you for sharing this. I've never thought about it that way. Or, I've been in a similar situation, or it gives me so much hope just seeing that you've, felt like you transformed out of this, or, just like all these little things that it's like, people want to know what you're about, but they have to feel connected to you first. Otherwise, it's like an advertisement that we see on TV. It's like we get the messages from everywhere, but it's the connection that really like leads people to want to know more.
Exactly. I love that you just said that.
So I want to say, to like wrap this up too, like for people that want to like dive more deeply into human design, what would you say, how can they get started with it?
Well, first, there's so much out there on the internet. There's so many different readers. There's so many different Instagram posts. First and foremost, get your chart. Just get your chart, find your exact birth time, get that dialed down. You can have a little bit of a fluctuation in your birth time, but it's better to have it be exact. And then once you know your chart and it lines you up with like type, and then your strategy, and your authority, which is how you make decisions, and it gives you your incarnation cross. I would start there, and then researching what you can from what other people have found. If it calls to you, maybe get a reading like through a reader that you resonate with, just to get like an introductory, foundational, basic, this is how you're designed. This is how you're designed to live. This is the places where you might like see where you're operating from. But there's a ton of books. Getting the book that Brittany was talking about or reading from is the definitive book of human design. You can buy that book on Amazon. That's like the ultimate. That's a really good starting book. It's a little bit more on the expensive side, but it's totally worth it for a book. It has everything you need to know to do your own research. And
if someone wants to hire you as their human design reader, how can they reach out to you?
At windsofchangeenergy.com, just how it's spelled, windsofchangeenergy.com. And I have in the works, I have some courses, but I do my clarity readings in the time beating. I actually also have a girlfriend who's a reader. She and I are actually very similar in our designs, but kind of different. And she just got into human design, and she does great readings for like very good introductory readings. So I'm going to actually, because I can only do so many readings in a day because I have other projects. So if in the event that people were to reach out and I have an influx, and I have other people that I definitely trust and recommend that I work with. So that would be a really good place to start. So my incarnation cross is upheaval. It's being a 5/1 profile. I'm really here. I'm like an excellent crisis mitigator and communicating symbols and universalizing concepts into a blanket format. And being with the cross of upheaval, I really specialize in helping people navigate challenging situations, or if they're stuck, or if they don't know what to do, if they're looking for clarity, which is why I call it a clarity reading. I really specialize in if you're in a pickle internally or externally, I address that, and I can do that very, very well. So, and then I have some courses for self-education and things to do that as well. That's in the mix. I'm thinking probably like February or March, we'll have some courses up. So yeah.
Very cool. Thank you. We're going to have your website linked, and then also your Instagram account too.
Wow, what an insightful conversation this has been. I have to say, I was in my mind just thinking, wow, I wonder if, our episodes are getting quite long, and I wonder if, people are not, I wonder what they want. And then of course, like clockwork, I wake up this morning and I get a DM that's like, by the way, I love how long these episodes are. So,
I love it.
Of season 2. So we know that, this is hitting the ears that it needs to hit. And we love giving as much time dedicated to these topics as our guests feel, as we all organically feel.
And there's so much more. I love that, because that is such a manifesting generator synchronicity. Like, y'all as manifesting generators are designed to notice the signs that show up in your reality, because it happens more for you than like for me as a projector. I get signs, but not like that. Like it doesn't show up like that for me. I get little other tidbits depending on the situation, the transits and things, but definitely. So Hannah, for you as a manifesting generator, for you, definitely pay attention to the signs that show up to validate that your ideas are in alignment with the universe, and that the universe supports you. So like you'll get signs like that. Just like little things. Oh, you want to go on vacation? Oh, where are you going to go to vacation? You start seeing all these like pictures, posters, people talking about, Hawaii. And then like, oh, maybe I should go to Hawaii for my vacation. That's just how it works for you guys. And a little bit more fast than other types.
And that's literally what I teach. That's literally to help people notice synchronicities in life.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, great, fantastic. Yes, everyone should be paying attention to that. Yeah.
So we have three last questions, or are there any questions from your side, Bright?
Yeah, well, the question that we had gotten at that time was, can you explain more about the magnetic monopole and the G center?
Oh, okay, great. That's a good question because that can be a little bit confusing. Okay, so the monopole, it's a one-sided magnet. Okay, so it's a monopole. So you have a magnet, it's positive and negative. The monopole actually is just an attractor. It's just a drawing of energy to you. And it sits in the gate 2 of the G center at the bottom. That's where it literally sits in the energy and in the design. And it's your driving, it's what drives you. It's your director. It's what draws everything to you. And isn't it interesting how it's in the heart chakra? Well, so the will and the G center, or the will and the G center are definitely correlated with each other. They're either the heart muscle combined or like a little bit of both. And there's definitely a combination. They've definitely, they're the heart and the G center, or the ego center and the G center are the heart chakra split into 2. Once I go into my courses, I actually dive a little bit into more about the differentiation in the centers. That's a little bit deeper. But the monopole, so you have your crystal consciousness. So that's like your personality that sits at the crown chakra. And then the monopole sits in the heart center, and that's what is your magnet and your attractor. And it draws the matrix to you. It's what draws the matrix into your reality. That's what draws everything to you as your own manifestation within your avatar. So that would probably be the best way to describe it. Imagine it as just like a vortex almost. Yeah, hopefully, that's the best way to describe it.
Oh yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. And this page I just turned to, the crystals of consciousness, has the personality crystal there at the crown, the design crystal at the ajna, and then the magnetic monopole at the heart.
Yes.
I'm excited to continue, just like if you made it to this point, for heaven's sakes, everybody, you've learned by now, this is a very complex system, and don't be hard on yourself by wanting to know everything at the same time. It's like, give yourself time, take in the pieces that resonate, and invite in more whenever it feels good.
Yeah, I've been digesting this information for about 15 months. And I really dove deep and read I still am not, I don't know everything by heart. I have to take notes, and I have to put the pieces together and research, and I have to do all like the groundwork of like the behind the scenes, so that I can actually address like what's really going on with you just from having my notes and putting all the pieces together, and then using my 5th line of my profile to communicate that to everyone. So yeah.
Well, you do a beautiful job of it. Thank you so much for everything that you've dialogued with us on in this episode. Truly. I've never sat with somebody else and talked about a system before, so I had no idea what to expect going into this conversation. But wow, the way that it unfolded, just so much fun.
I can't wait to hear this and see how it, like, because you get to like that state where you're just in the zone and you just communicate and source flows through you. And
yeah,
I love it. Thank you so much. I've had so much fun. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's been an honor to have you here. And we have 3 more questions for you, which are our sacred questions that we ask every guest at the end of each episode. And the first one is, what does sacred mean to you?
Being in alignment with source creation, being in alignment with nature and harmony with the systems that are already existing on planet Earth, and really being in alignment and doing source or God's will, ultimate prime creation, and flowing that through me as a sacred expression of creation. I mean, that's really, that would be my definition of just being in alignment, my palms together at the center of my heart and loving and sharing that love with everyone around me.
Beautiful. Second one, what does having a sacred sister mean to you?
Oh, it would mean that we support each other and we love and support each other, whatever they're doing, and helping them navigate life when life comes at them with challenges, and really having a sense of a support system that you can call upon and feel that you can gather information and knowledge from, and just feeling like someone that you can lean on, like that stand by me. You know, it's like I have someone that I can call my friend and, you know, family, you know, being humans on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm. What are 3 ways you turn something normal or mundane into something magical or sacred?
When I cook for people. Like I make very simple meals on my own, but it's when when I choose to make a meal for other people, it really lights me up, and I get to share that and be like, oh, do you like, you know, here you go, I'm gonna feed you, you're delicious, you know, here's some delicious food. Oh, I made you some treats. Oh, here's some treats. You know, it's almost like, oh, you're not feeling that good. Here, let me make you some soup and some cookies, you know, kind of deal. That's just like taking like the mundane aspect. And I like doing it for other people. I can do it for myself or my partner, but, you know, it's like when it's a big group, that really lights me up. So, yeah.
Girl after my own heart. And I feel like you took the words right out of my mouth. That's so me. I like live to make yummy food for people. Like Hannah was saying, I would be okay not cooking again. I was like, that would be my worst nightmare of life, to like not be able to cook. Or like not, you know, having it as like a main thing that I go to my kitchen every day. I was gonna say my kitchen's my cave.
Yeah, no, definitely. That can be that too. For sure. Yep.
So good. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. So beautiful.
Yeah. And it was really great because I only know you through Ashley, Britt, and Hannah. I've never met you, and I just love that I can hang out with you ladies, and I feel like we've known each other for so long already, and I just love that. That's one of my favorite aspects of doing this work, because you find the people that are like, oh yeah, it's like talking to an old friend. Like, yeah, we've known each other this whole time, obviously.
Totally. Yeah. We're soul family.
Yeah. I love that word. That term is just 100%.
And we're finding that these connections are so easily made when we approach conversation with that deeper dialogue in mind. Like all these people on season 2, it's just been like, we feel this way at the end of every episode, and it's such a blessing. We didn't know what season 2 was going to be like.
I love it. Awesome.
Making new friends all over the world.
Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Just totally, I just love this.
So we want to just thank you so, so much for coming onto this show, for sharing all of your insights and wisdom. And we hope that we've sparked a lot of curiosity within all of you that are listening. And we encourage you to go and check out the online courses that are upcoming. Maybe sign up for a newsletter with the website that's launching, and to book a session with Wynd. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Mahalo and aloha.